there was a lowly cash registrar looking for a quick buck. To be a little more precise, he wasn't in it for the cha-ching, but more of wondering where the hell did he went wrong. His just commemorating all his accomplishment in life, then it hit him. He wasn't adventurous enough, he was too plain and safe. As he was contemplating his life on the sidewalk on the street, he passed by an old, dirty hobo bum by the dark alley. He heard a hoarse voice saying, "Spare some change." He asked what? The hobo, "I asked if you got some change, my good man." He replied, "Just your luck, I only got a lunch and I will eat that later." The hobo said, "Common man, I haven't eaten since yesterday. Tell you what, I'll give you information for some food." As he was about to leave, and pretend he did not heard anything, he realized maybe this is why he was having thoughts about his life. Then he just said, loudly, "Sure, take my lunch." Swings his bag to get a sandwich from his backpack. He took out a square thing wrapped very tightly in wax paper out of backpack, and said to the hobo, "Take it, before I change my mind." The hobo said, "Thank you, my good man. A piece of advice, try not to mix plastic and food too much." He sarcastically said, "Who are you, a culinary expert? Just take what is given." "Oh, I don't have soda." Wade looked around when he returned his view to the hobo, but no one is there. He just closed his bag and just pushed the backpack to go in his back. At the store, where he works, he was doing what a typical registrar does, but the only thing he could look forward is his scrumptious lunch. It will start with a perfectly toasted bun of bread, a spicy ketchup and creamy mayo with a little hint of golden mustard, a garden fresh piece of lettuce, and a juicy slice of tomato, finally a ham worth it for the barbecue gods, but only a slice. You don't want to look too greedy in the eyes of the gods. An anxious feeling that brought invisible shivers to your spine turned into anger, despair, and regret as he quickly realized that he gave his sandwich away, and for what? Absolutely nothing. At least he can still dream about the perfect sandwich. He was not totally ripped off by the hobo, because in his bag he noticed a calling card of a company. It was Tangertech. It was an offshore company dealing with mostly military weaponry. In his mind he was thinking, why would they like a civilian? But he just shrugged his shoulders. Luckily somebody had a birthday in the store next door, and gave him a small piece of the cake. At least he got a little something to fill his stomach. As he was about to leave the store, he took his backpack from the table and saw the Tangertech card under the backpack and above the table. He was minimally forced to look at it and use it or ignore it and throw it. He decided to call Tangertech cause he kinda lost lunch for it, and he might as well get something out of it. After commuting through public transit, he was walking out of the bus and he was about to leave the bus. Then he suddenly remembered he left his backpack in the back row of the bus. A strange phenomenon happened when he suddenly saw that he was holding his backpack on his hand, but he just shrugged the incident because he knows there is a logical explanation for this. He walked to the receptionist and gave the card. The receptionist picked up the handle of the phone and said to him to just wait in the lobby and someone will be with him. He asked if the receptionist needed to know his name if it will be used. The receptionist said no, thank you, which should be a red flag to him, cause there will be no record of him being there, but he looked back and no one is in the lobby, so he understood why the receptionist don't need his name. He sat down quietly, waiting for him to be summoned. As his waiting, he saw some magazines to be used and consumed, which made him feel relaxed, like in the doctor's office. A sound of a big man asked very loud, "Is there anyone who came here with a cart?" He immediately said me. It's not because of sarcasm, but because someone asked a question that he had the answer. That's all I remember. A man in a lab gown asked, "Is that all you remember, sir?" He said yes. The man in a lab gown asked again, "Sir, you don't remember getting in the top secret facility of a secret experiment of liquid explosive?" "Look, sir, we just want our prototype back. Our surveillance saw an image of a man taking the liquid explosive, and then puff, it's gone. Good thing our custodian found something in the bathroom." He asked, "What was it?" "Me lying face down and sleeping." The man in a lab gown answered, "Not really. You know what, there is a mirror on your left, you could see for yourself." As he was looking to the mirror, he saw a glass beaker filled with black, white, pink, pinkish and red gooey substance. He yelled and screamed. He could not locate his mouth or his ears for that matter, so he just heard another voice, not from him or the man in a lab gown, saying he is the prime suspect in the disappearance of the liquid explosive. Should we even help him? He saw the man in a lab gown, slightly turned with his hand covering his mouth and saying to another man in a lab gown, "This is helping another person, and I'm a person first." And he said, "I thank you." The man in a lab gown looked at the beaker and asked what was that. He quickly diverted his question by another question, "Is this my whole body? It seems like a small beaker to hold my whole body." The man in a lab gown quickly stood up and said, "Ah, glad you asked, no pun intended," looked at the other man in a lab gown and whispered, "Get him to his body." As the two men in a lab gown carrying the glass beaker. In the public bathroom he saw what appears to be a figure of a man, but the figure was missing some parts. The man in a lab gown said, "Maybe the face is somewhere in that beaker, so." The second man in a lab gown poured the gooey substance in the figure of the man. His face started to form when the transformation was done. He was missing some parts of his body, but he suddenly remembered that his one ear is still in the room of which he was in before, so he interfered the man in a lab gown and asked, "Where was the room we were at before?" The man in a lab gown pointed at last room, "When you get out of the bathroom." He stood up and checked his hands. As he was going to room he felt something was crawling up inside of him. He placed his one palm on his missing ear area. He could feel his ear forming by itself. The man in a lab gown was following him and said, Sir, if you could just go to the end of the left wing, that will bring you to the elevator, so we could go to the clinic to see if everything is just super." They were walking in the corridors when the man in a lab gown said, "I'm Montes Lopez, by the way, not yet a official, but very soon. You know what they say about doctorates." Made a circle with his index finger and thumb while raising his 3 fingers, but coincidentally placing the hole in front of his mouth. "They get paid." He looked at Montes and just agreed with a little chuckle of smile. When they had arrived in the clinic, and Montes checked if it's really locked by knocking, saying, "Hello," and wiggling the doorknob, and it was really locked. Montes turned around. Then a weird thing happened. His hand starts fading from existence and the door opened. Then his hand started forming back in his arm.